Senator Joyal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bienvenue, Madame Fraser.
Welcome, Ms. Fraser. I was astonished to learn that you were taking up public service again in the electoral context, because by very definition there is always a hint of partisanship surrounding elections. And when I saw your name associated with an interview that you gave last week that was reported Friday last in the media, I was in a hurry to read it, because knowing you, I don't necessarily make a spontaneous association between your experience as Auditor General and the wisdom and experience that you can express in terms of evaluating the bill that is before the committee right now. When I quote the Canadian Press article that says that there would be thousands of voters that might be disenfranchised, that would run the risk of not being able to vote. What do you associate with this? Why are you saying this? Because this exists, this particular section of the bill, this clause in this act, which means the disenfranchisement of a certain number of Canadians. What brings you to say that, since it exists elsewhere in the provinces? Well, yes, there was quite a lot of testimony before the House of Commons Committee from a variety of groups who felt that the elimination of this process and the elimination of the voter identification card would make it very difficult for thousands of people to exercise their franchise. And the franchise, of course, is absolutely essential. It must be exercised in a democratic system. Even if there is one person that would not be able to vote in our democratic system, well, that would be a cause for concern. We hear a lot said about the 39 pieces of ID, but really it's the matter of proving your address, your residential address rather, that is of concern. That really means, in fact, that there are far fewer than 39 pieces of ID that can be used to prove who you are. You could cite instances of people who were not able to vote because they couldn't prove their current place of residence. So accessibility to the polling station would mean that there would be a restriction of the right to vote, and that would then mean that it does not reflect the franchise as it was envisaged by the Constitution. Well, there's always this possibility of having someone confirm one's identity, but if you can't have that possibility, you would have to find another way so that someone wouldn't be disenfranchised. You have to take into account that some people will need that to vote. So the bill then perhaps is taken the most expeditious route to eliminating certain instances. It seems to me that since I've been involved in elections, and that's many dozens of years, it is the exercising of one's franchise that is so important, and you don't want to have fraud. You don't want to have someone substituting themselves for another person. But you want to be able also to facilitate the voting process. If a person cannot give the basic information that is outlined in the legislation, well, then it would seem reasonable to provide some sort of alternative route for that person. An alternative system, if, for example, that person can't prove by way of a document who they are, where they live. There is more proof than just the written proof. We are aware of our criminal system, our criminal law system. I look at my colleague, Senator Baker, and so saying,
But the system provides also for additional elements of proof if you can't really have the written document to assert what you say. Alors, c'est un peu, analogiquement, c'est un peu la même.
So by way of analogy, it's more or less the same in the electoral system. We have to be flexible with respect to the alternative mechanism that can be put at the disposal of a citizen that can't provide the basic requirements. Just a comment. Increasingly, we are receiving our mail electronically, our banking statements as well, our correspondence, my children get their report cards electronically. And none of that could be really used for proof of residency. When we talk about irregularities, when we talk about the most recent election, yes, there were administrative difficulties, many of them. And if I can draw an analogy, when you do an audit, it's rare that you find no errors at all. However, you don't want to jump to the conclusion that there is fraud. We all want to understand why errors have arisen in such major numbers. Is it because the forms aren't clear? Because the rules aren't clear? Because the people, the staff wasn't well trained? Are they overburdened with work? They didn't take the time to fill out the forms properly? I want to understand why the errors occurred. And the Neufeld report speaks to the training of the staff in a polling station. And we hope that better training will reduce the number of errors and there will be a fairer system for all. But when you do find errors in expense accounts, you don't jump to the conclusion that there should not be expense accounts at all allowed. So we just want to find out why the errors have slipped into the system, and we want to find the corrective measures. Senator Dagenais, thank you very much for being here today, Madame Fraser. I have several questions. First of all, the one that we are all speaking about, the identification of the voter through pieces of ID. You know, nowadays, if you go to an airport, you've got to identify yourself to get your boarding card, and the same thing if you want to go into the parliamentary precinct. The government is as you have said, perhaps there should be flexible measures, but very often if we find out that an election is going to be held 1 month in advance of the actual fact. And what we want to do is prevent fraud and ensure that people vote. So there are some limits in terms of collectively assuming the responsibility in place of the voter. I think there's a responsibility that falls on the shoulders of the voter as well. What do you think? I think that the major hurdle can be found in the confirmation of the residential address, and not the identity. Of course, there are some people who do have difficulty proving who they are. Some marginalized groups in society, say, who don't take the plane. The homeless people in the street, very likely they don't have ID cards. But should we exclude these people from the democratic process? It's up to you to make that decision. But the problem, the principal problem, is that of the address, the current address. In my family, I have a daughter who would have a great deal of difficulty because she gets all her marks, her report cards, her credit cards, all her information electronically. She lives at home. She doesn't pay any credit card accounts. Could she go to her university and say that she would want an attestation as to her place of residency? But, you know, this is an instance. There could be consequences for her. or someone in her case, in her position, if documents were required. And why can't I confirm with my ID indicating that I live at this address and this is my daughter who lives with me at that address? On another matter, it deals with the separation of the administration of inquiries. Yes. I'd like to hear what you think about this. It would seem that there is some, the administration has criticized the chief electoral officer at times with respect to reports, the length of time that runs out, and so on. All types of difficulties. Sometimes it's 9 months. Clearly, I didn't have the opportunity to ask a question of the CEO earlier, but I know that if there is work, the administrative burden could perhaps be lessened, and therefore inquiries would proceed more quickly. I think that the chief electoral officer indicated that there could be difficulties with the sharing of information, and under the provisions, there could be a sharing of information by the chief electoral officer if the commissioner is displaced. But with respect to how organizations are structured, I would like to read you an excerpt from the annual report of the Director of Public Prosecutions, 2012-2013. Unfortunately, I only have the copy in English, so I will read it in English.
The Director of Public Prosecution prosecutes charges of violating federal law laid following an investigation by a law enforcement agency. The PPSC is not an investigative agency and does not conduct investigations. The separation of law enforcement from the prosecution function is a well-established principle of the Canadian justice system. Ça vient du rapport.
That comes directly from the report. So it's more usual to have administration and inquiry together. If you look at the CRA and there are other agencies, the Ontario agency, the Securities Agency that goes even further. So the two functions normally are together.